Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sherrie Taylor, graduate gemologist and registered Master Valuer, owner of S. Taylor Jewelry Appraisal. One of my absolute favorite things to do is to treasure hunt the vintage and antique markets and shops. Now what I'm referring to is the type of antique and vintage shop that has a variety of items, so not specifically just jewelry. You'll often find furniture and knickknacks and statues and glass, and often there's cases with jewelry in them. Of course, there are high-end jewelry estate shops that specialize specifically in antique and vintage jewelry. That's not the type of shop that we're specifically going to be focusing on for this video, but I'm sure we'll do another one in the future. If browsing these types of markets is something that you enjoy, I wanted to share some tips with you. Many of my clients are repeat customers and collectors. A lot of them will visit after they have purchased something from an antique or vintage market, and they are so excited about their finds. They visit because they want to see how well they did. They want to see if what they got was a good deal. Before I get into my tips, I want to share a few pieces with you that I've picked up over the years that aren't jewelry, but they're really beautiful and really fun. So first I have a pair of opera glasses, and these are really special because they're actually a mother of pearl. You can see the mother of pearl finish there. And what I loved about these, and I knew I instantly had to have them, is I don't know if you can see the inscription on there. I'm going to try to focus it. They are inscribed. I'm going to hold them this way, that way we can see the inscription better. C.M. Watts, from her girls, Christmas 1904. Isn't that amazing? And when we flip them around here, you can see the branding on there. Let's turn it around, but go this way. And that's also done in mother of pearl. And these particular glasses were from Paris. And this is the little leather case with a little push button opening here. Let's see if we can open it up. Oh, I guess I paid $125 for them. You can see that the case is lined. They must have been well used because obviously the leather is pretty worn, but they are again from 1904, so we'll give them a little bit of grace. But yeah, really cute. One of my other favorite pieces is this cute little change purse. The top expands like a little accordion and then collapses again, and then you can put the top back on. But how very glamorous is that? Had to have it. And then another little gold change purse. This one just sort of has a little purse opening at the top. Super adorable. You can see the lining in there. A very cute little find. The lamp behind me also, that was a find at an antique shop as well. I believe it's vintage though, not antique. And behind me, my 60s glam phone. That was also, oops. That was also another piece I picked up. Okay, back to jewelry. We are focusing on jewelry here today in this video. If you're new to collecting or hunting, I just wanted to give you an idea of the types of treasures that you can find when you are out and about in these markets. If you're curious about seeing more items like that aren't jewelry, comment down below and maybe I'll do another video of some of the amazing pieces that I picked up for our home. One more, this mirror was also a treasure that I picked up on one of my treasure hunts. Okay, let's get into my tips. My very first tip, if you're someone that loves treasure hunting in the antique and vintage jewelry markets, I want you to look for something that you absolutely love. Look for something that you're drawn to. You're drawn to it for a reason. I find sometimes that I'll get caught up in the moment, and because I'm just naturally drawn to things that are older and antique pieces that are really interesting, I sometimes don't consider that they're pieces actually that I wouldn't necessarily enjoy wearing. They're more just pieces that I would love to own because of the history behind them. Really think about that. Is it a piece that you love the look of, that you will enjoy wearing on a regular basis? Tip number 2, take what the ticket description says with a grain of salt. If something is claiming to be natural gemstone, for example, in this showcase, a lot of pieces were identified as natural coral, with price tags in and around $100 to $350. Now, for someone to properly identify that, they would have had to pay a gemologist, if they weren't one themselves, at least $100 to be able to make that determination. And with the pricing falling within that range, it's very unlikely that they did, so you will want to ask the vendor, how do they know that? What made that determination? And can you return it if your gemologist identifies it otherwise? Tip number 3, always take the piece out and look for metal stamping. You're going to want to bring perhaps a little loop with you while you're out shopping so that you can read those markings very clearly. On occasion, we will run into in the appraisal lab pieces that are stamped that aren't what they are stamped to be, so your appraiser would be more than happy to run an acid test for you after you purchase it without having to do a full appraisal if that's not what you wanted. In addition to metal stamping, I also want you to look for brand stamping or any hallmarks, especially if you are loving the costume jewelry, because there are some very popular costume jewelry designers in the vintage market that are very desirable. Tip number 4, not everything in these antique and vintage shops is actually vintage and antique. There may be some newer pre-owned pieces that the vendors picked up at auction that now they're wanting to resell. Vintage is considered to be anything over 20 years, and antique, depending on who you talk to, 100 years or older. Tip number 5, and probably my favorite, especially if you've listened to my podcast, everything is not Art Deco. I joke about this, but I'm also very serious about this because the Art Deco era spanned between the 1920s to about the mid-1930s, again, depending on who you talk to. It's a pretty short time span, and there are other design eras that can be confused for it commonly. And without fail, it happened to me while I was in this exact store. So I asked to see a brooch, and the associate had come over and she said that it's probably from the 1920s. And it definitely was not, just with the finish of the metal, the stamping, the wear, and even the findings that were used on the clasp. The style of it wasn't even really in the likeness of anything from the Deco period. I'd really avoid making claims like that because it does really take a jewelry history expert to be able to identify these design eras, but I guess the 1920s is very popular and it's probably good for sales. And my final tip, if you find something that you absolutely love, always negotiate on price. Get to know that return policy so that if anything checks out differently after you have it examined at your jewelry appraisers, you can have the opportunity to return it. And maybe just double check that any negotiations that you may have made doesn't void the return policy and make it final sale. Ooh, I was wrong. I have one more tip for you, and that is to have fun. Treasure hunting for antique and vintage jewelry is so much fun, and one of my favorite things to do whenever I am feeling a little uninspired. I will take the day and I will go and I will just browse the markets and see what I can find, and it is one of the best activities. If you would like a little bit of help when you're out shopping in the form of a digital guide, my vintage and antique jewelry guide could be helpful for you. The link to purchase my vintage and antique jewelry guide in digital form can be found on my Instagram page in my link tree. The Instagram page is stjewellery_appraisal. It's going to very clearly outline the prominent jewelry design eras of the past in the form of the motifs that were common for that time period, the materials that were used during that time period, and it spans all the way from the Georgian era to the retro modern era. It's a fantastic tool to take out shopping with you if you are someone who loves to go to these markets or if you're thinking of starting. I hope you enjoyed this video today because I really enjoyed making it, and if you would love to see more, obviously consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a thumbs up and we'll see you again next time.